Coming up in a newscast, South Korea logs nearly 100,000 new COVID-19 cases. The number of those being treated at home continues to spike. The government proposed extra budget is passed in Parliament, part of efforts to support more South Koreans suffering from the pandemic. The potential breakthrough in Ukraine, leaders of Washington and Moscow agree in principle to attend a summit on the crisis, but intel still suggests an invasion is being planned. Hello, your week's off to a smooth start. I'm Daniel Che here to bring the latest. Welcome to our newscast. The nation's daily COVID-19 tally slightly declined from reaching record highs. That's mainly due to fewer testing over the weekend. Authorities feel confident that Omicron will not overwhelm the medical system, but to contain the spread, more self-test kits will be made available. Shin Yeun has our top story.
South Korea on Monday saw 95,362 new cases of COVID-19. This is an increase of more than 40,000 from a week ago, with case numbers almost doubling week by week due to the spread of Omicron. The country has now seen a total of more than 2 million infections. It only hit the 1 million mark on February 6th, but has since seen another million cases in the past 2 weeks. Authorities say Omicron will peak towards the end of this month or in early March, when there could be around 270,000 cases a day. Notwithstanding the fast spread of Omicron, the number of critically ill patients is still in the hundreds. As of Monday, this figure stood at 480, an increase of 41 from a day ago. Authorities said that Omicron might be contagious, but its fatality rate is low, at 0.13%, which doesn't threaten the country's medical capacity. Only a little over 27% of all ICU beds nationwide are occupied. To try to contain this uptick, authorities are looking to supply more self-test kits and give out antiviral pills to more of the population. The Ministry of Food and Drug Safety said it would provide 21 million COVID-19 self-test kits to some 75,000 stores nationwide this week. This was up by 2 million from what was distributed last week. And from Monday, health authorities lowered the age requirement for Paxlovid to include those aged 40 and up with underlying conditions.
The government will expand the number of pharmacies prescribing Paxlovid to roughly 800 this week. We will make sure to accelerate the pills distribution.
Authorities have also added Novavax to the country's vaccine arsenal. People aged 18 and up who haven't been vaccinated can make their Novavax shot reservations from Monday. Inoculations are set to start from March 7th. In regards to when Korea would lift mask mandates like other countries, authorities said that would be one of the last measures to be eased once Omicron is contained. Shin Yeun, Arirang News.
The number of people at home isolating or being treated after contracting the virus is increasing fast. So what should be done to manage the large number of people being treated at home? Kim Bo-kyung turned to leading medical experts for their insights on the matter.
Left alone, feeling neglected. These are comments from people who are at home with COVID-19. As the new daily caseload hovers around 100,000, the number of people either isolating or being treated at home after testing positive for COVID-19 is going up accordingly. According to the health authorities on Monday, 469,000 people are at home battling the virus, double the number seen last Monday. Yet the number does not seem like it will go down soon.
As the result of domestic and foreign researchers' data on future COVID-19 numbers, new cases are projected to increase to 170,000 a day by early March, and the number of seriously ill patients being treated in hospital will go up to more than 1,000.
If the new cases hit more than 170,000 a day, then up to 1 million people could be at home with the virus. In order to efficiently manage such a large volume of potential patients, experts agree that it is important to let people know the normal course of COVID-19 symptoms to prevent them from overloading the medical hotlines.
The top priority is to let people know what Omicron virus is and reassure them not to be too anxious. For this, health authorities need to show the data of Omicron-infected patients and show how it is.
Communications and good logistics to man the phone calls and routing patients in person are also key factors.
We need someone on the line who can man these kinds of hotlines 24/7, just in case a patient does have serious symptoms or signs. Then, once a patient calls and an assessment is made that they need to be seen, assessed in person, there should be good communication with the person who's received the call, with care centers, urgent care centers, emergency rooms in the region, so that the person can be directed to a place where they can get seen immediately.
For adults, unrelenting fever, difficulty in breathing, or a continuous cough, even after taking medication, would be red flags signaling that they should seek assistance. Children suffering dehydration shown by symptoms such as dry mouths and lips, or a drop in the amount of urine produced, should also immediately be seen by a doctor. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
President Moon Jae-in seeks public understanding for the latest decision to move business curfew from 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. In a meeting with top aides, he emphasized it's difficult to reach an appropriate level of social distancing given the concerns about Omicron and the dissatisfaction among small business owners.
정부가 소상공인과 자영업자들의 어려움을 충분히 이해하면서도 확진자가 증가하는 가운데 고심 끝에 내린 결정임을 이해하여 주시기 바랍니다. 앞으로 위중증 관리와 의료 대응 여력을 중심에 두고 상황 변화의 추이에 따라 언제든지 유연하게 거리두기를 조정해 나가겠습니다.
Moon pointed out that severely ill patients are being taken care of in a stable manner thanks to efforts to secure enough hospital beds and the vaccination campaign. He thanks some 6,200 local clinics for taking part in treating patients recovering at home and pledged to increase participation. The National Assembly passed an extra budget bill worth some $14.2 billion. It's aimed at compensating small business owners hit by COVID restrictions. This comes as the ruling and the main opposition parties reached a last-minute agreement to increase the amount by roughly $2.4 billion from what the government initially proposed. Some 3.3 million businesses will get 3 million won each, about $2,500. Tutors, golf caddies, and performing artists, as well as other freelance workers who were excluded in previous payments, will also get up to 1 million won, or about $800. Private taxi drivers and bus drivers get 1.5 million won, or roughly $1,300 each. Businesses, meanwhile, can get up to 90% of their losses. Seoul's top diplomat travels to Paris for talks with foreign ministers from the Indo-Pacific region. He'll also meet with the Director General of UNESCO, likely to discuss Japan's push to get World Heritage status for the controversial Sado mines. Yoon Jung-min provides a glimpse of what to expect.
South Korea is upping its diplomatic efforts this week regarding Japan's UNESCO push for its Sado mines, which use wartime forced labor. Foreign Minister Chung Eui-yong is heading for Paris on Monday for a meeting with ministers from the Indo-Pacific region, as well as with UNESCO Director General Nat'l Assembly. Chung is likely to discuss the issue when he meets the UNESCO chief. Tokyo is pushing to get the mines on the Japanese island of Sado listed as UNESCO World Heritage, despite Koreans having been subjected to forced labor there by Japan during World War II. Japan's application reportedly only includes the period from the 16th to mid-19th century and excludes the period of the Japanese occupation of Korea and the wartime period going up to the 1940s. An ICAMAS Korea board member says bringing the issue on the global stage is important because coordination is critical for UNESCO heritage.
What Japan is pushing right now is, in fact, unreasonable. As for documentary heritage, Japan itself has created and applied a principle that there should be agreement between related countries when recommending heritage with possible disputes.
Experts say diplomacy and communication with the international community is needed so that Korea's voice on the mines is heard. The South Korean foreign minister will also discuss Korean peninsula affairs and regional issues at the Indo-Pacific ministerial meeting. The agenda may also include current tensions in Ukraine. And the minister will have bilateral meetings with officials from several countries, including Sweden, Greece, Bulgaria. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News.
Moving on to other stories now, the world's most advanced attack helicopters are now being used by U.S. Forces Korea. The 2nd Combat Aviation Brigade said in a Facebook post last Friday that 6 of the newest version of the Apache AH-64E were dispatched to Camp Humphreys in Pyeongtaek. This is the first time the new model has been deployed overseas. Weighing over 10 tons, the choppers can reach maximum speed of 365 kilometers per hour with a 480-kilometer combat radius of action. North Korea suspended its recent flurry of missile launches during the Beijing Games, but now that the Olympic truce has ended, Pyongyang could resume military activities possibly in April. Kim Da-mi provides a deeper analysis.
As the 2022 Winter Olympics came to a close, attention shifted to North Korea and the possibility it may resume military activities. The regime, a close ally of Beijing, held back on further missile tests for the past few weeks after 7 launches just last month, including its intermediate-range ballistic missile, the Hwasong-12. Instead, the leader Kim Jong-un has appeared to have focused on solidifying internal unity by attending the groundbreaking ceremony for housing project, as well as celebrations for the 80th birthday of the late leader Kim Jong-il last week, which ended with various events and performances instead of a military parade or another missile launch. Watchers are voicing concerns over Pyongyang's possible resumption of military activities and also warning that it has become more difficult to predict when they might occur.
It's hard to draw the US's attention with provocations and get a message from them because Washington is focusing on the Ukraine crisis, meaning it's a very flexible situation at the moment.
But if the North does decide to carry out military acts, experts point to April when big anniversaries fall in the year 2022, a quote, revolutionary year for the regime.
North Korea may do something to highlight April 15th, the 110th birthday of the founding leader Kim Il-sung. And April also marks the 90th anniversary of the North Korean People's Army.
But the expert further noted the North will remain cautious on terminating its self-imposed moratorium on testing nuclear weapons, as that will be its one and only card for putting pressure on the Biden administration. And Seoul's Unification Ministry has once again called on the North to choose a dialogue and cooperation for a peace on the Korean Peninsula.
The Unification Ministry has urged the North to suspend activities that threaten peace and cause instability in the region and maintain the moratorium it promised to the international community.
The spokesperson further added Seoul will continue to closely monitor the North's related moves and prepare for all possibilities. Kim Da-mi, Arirang News.
Russia has no specific schedule laid out for a summit with the U.S. over the Ukrainian crisis. According to Interfax on Monday, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said there are no concrete plans for a summit. The Russian news agency reported the meeting between the top diplomats of the two sides are scheduled for February 24th. Such comments come after U.S. President Joe Biden had agreed to meet with Putin in principle as long as Moscow does not invade Ukraine. The tensions over Ukraine spiked the value of gold as a safe haven asset because of risk that sanctions on Russia could reduce supplies. Oil prices also rose. This is already being felt in South Korea too, with prices surging at gas stations. Here's Kim Sung-min with the latest.
Gas prices are rising sharply in South Korea as tensions over Ukraine are driving volatility in the global energy market. According to the oil price information site Opinet, the average price of gasoline in Seoul on Monday climbed to above 1,800 won, or around $1.50 per liter, for the first time in 14 weeks. This as global oil prices are trending upward amid a tense situation in Ukraine.
To ease the burden of surging costs at the gas station, the South Korean government is mulling whether to extend the current 20% reduction in fuel tax, which was originally due to expire at the end of April.
Global oil prices continue to stay above the $90 mark. Brent crude futures and U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude rose more than $1 a barrel at the start of Asian trade, but slid almost $1 again on news of a possible summit between the U.S. and Russia. Brent crude futures were at around $93 a barrel at 5 p.m. Korea time, and U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures were at just over $90.
If there are economic sanctions, the U.S. wouldn't buy oil from Russia, and Russia might not export the oil at all. Also, European countries now use natural gas more to go greener, and Russia is a huge exporter, especially to Germany.
Gold prices are also up as people seek safe haven assets amid growing uncertainties. Gold is now set for a third straight weekly gain, with the price per ounce hitting the $1,900 mark. That's its highest in 8 months. Analysts forecast that geopolitical tensions could push up the near-term price to around $2,000 an ounce. Other commodities that have a high reliance on Russia or Ukraine, like aluminium and corn, are facing price hikes too. Russia is the world's second biggest aluminium producer, and Ukraine makes up 13% of global corn exports. Experts say that the standoff on the Ukraine border could aggravate the commodity supply crunch, which has already been worsened by the energy crisis in China last year and by adverse weather around the world. Kim Sung-min, Arirang News.
February could be the 15th month in a row the nation's exports have been higher compared to a year earlier. The gains have been led by semiconductors, cars, and petroleum products. But rising oil price means South Korea continues to run a trade deficit. Lee Dae-yeon provides a breakdown of the digits.
South Korea's exports recorded double-digit on-year gains in the first 20 days of February. The Korea Customs Service said on Monday that exports for the first 20 days of the month stood at $34.3 billion, up more than 13% from a year earlier. As there have been fewer working days so far this February compared to the same period last year, the daily average rose by even more, up around 17%. Should the trend continue for the rest of the month, it would make February the 15th straight month of on-year export growth. The growth was led by solid outbound shipments of major export items. Semiconductor exports were up around 18% on-year to record roughly $6.7 billion. Exports of automobiles and petroleum products also jumped almost 11% and 56% respectively. But South Korea's trade deficit soared to over $1.6 billion as of February 20th. That's up $130 million compared to a year earlier. The country's trade deficit has grown since last December as energy prices rose in 2021. That's because the country's imports so far this month went up 12.9% compared to the same period of 2021 to $36 billion. Imported commodities such as petroleum products and coal increased 50% and 130% respectively. But this gap between the country's exports and imports goes beyond energy prices.
Although exports of components usually increase in the months of January and February in South Korea, global demand is falling due to global uncertainties, such as the supply chain issues and the Russia-Ukraine crisis. Because of this, a huge gap remains between the country's exports and imports.
The expert forecasts that the trade deficit will ease slightly as exports are likely to grow over the next several months. Lee Dae-yeon, Arirang News.
The 2022 Beijing Games came to a close on Sunday. The Chinese capital has become the first city to have hosted both the Summer and Winter Olympics. Norway led all nations with a record-breaking 16 gold. South Korea finished 14th with 2 gold, 5 silver, and 2 bronze medals. Ji-young has the full story.
A shining snowflake floats into the air and brightens the night sky, and a fireworks display spells out the slogan, "One World, One Family." Extinguishing the Olympic flame, Beijing wrapped up the 17-day-long Olympics, finishing off a Games that goes down in history as the Chinese capital is now the only city in the world to have hosted both a Summer and Winter Olympics. With Chinese President Xi Jinping on hand, the Games closed with a traditional closing ceremony on Sunday at Beijing's Bird's Nest Stadium. Ahead of declaring the end of the Games, International Olympic Committee President Thomas Bach said the Beijing Olympics was truly exceptional.
There will be, first of all, the legacy of a new global winter sport. Winter sport will fundamentally change after these Olympic Winter Games Beijing 2022, with the engagement of more than 300 million Chinese people in winter sports. This is an amazing figure, and it offers a huge potential for the winter sports and for the international winter sports federations.
Some 2,900 athletes from 91 countries competed for 109 gold medals in Beijing. South Korea ranked 14th in the medal tally, winning 2 gold, 5 silver, and 2 bronze medals. Posting on his social media, President Moon Jae-in said he was proud of all of South Korea's athletes, saying they'd done their best at each and every moment. Mentioning some of them by name, he said he appreciated all the athletes, adding that everyone is a winner. As the second Olympics held during the COVID-19 pandemic, the Beijing Olympics had the strictest restrictions in place with what Chinese authorities called a closed-loop system. It was also overshadowed by outrage over a doping scandal and the US-led diplomatic boycott over China's human rights issues. The Italian cities of Milan and Cortina d'Ampezzo will host the next Winter Olympics in 2026. 엄지영, Arirang News.
Next month, BTS will be holding South Korea's largest in-person concert since the outbreak. The Culture Ministry is allowing the group to invite 15,000 fans per day for its 3-day run in Seoul. So far, the largest number of spectators at a single performance during the pandemic was around 5,000. The BTS show will take place on March 10th, 12th, and 13th in Seoul. All audience members will be required to present a vaccine cert or negative COVID-19 test results to enter. Safety management personnel will be on site to enforce virus safety measures. Turning to the world of sports now, the BBC included Tottenham Hotspur's Son Heung-min among its best 11 in the Premier League this week. English football pundit Garth Crooks assembled his team of the week with the South Korean as one of 3 forwards selected, along with teammate Harry Kane and Liverpool's Mohamed Salah. Son recorded 2 assists on Saturday local time, helping Spurs beat league leaders Manchester City 3-2. Crooks praised the star forward's first assist, calling it an example of textbook football. Harry Kane and Son Heung-min have now assisted one another for 36 league goals, tied for the most of any duo in EPL history, level with Chelsea legends Didier Drogba and Frank Lampard. A new report shows America's sea levels will rise rapidly over the next 3 decades. The amount will equal the rise that was seen over the last century. The issue sheds light on this concerning development.
According to a newly released report from the U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, U.S. sea levels will rise on average by about 25 to 30 centimeters in the next 30 years. That's the same amount as has been seen over the last century. The report also says that until the year 2100, sea levels are forecast to rise by 61 centimeters, and if carbon emissions are not reduced, they may rise anywhere from 110 to 210 centimeters. Moreover, by 2050, moderate flooding is expected to occur more than 10 times as often as it does today. Meanwhile, last October, a study from nonprofit research group Climate Central found that approximately 50 major coastal cities around the world will disappear if the planet warms to 3 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. The analysis, conducted in collaboration with Princeton University and the Potsdam Institute for Climate Impact Research in Germany, found that approximately 600 million people will be inundated if the temperature rise does occur. The Asia-Pacific region will be most affected, with 8 of the 10 most affected areas forecast to be in Asian countries such as China, India, and Vietnam. Experts concluded that coastal cities must implement adaptation measures to prevent inundation. Meanwhile, it was reported last August that the world is already around 1.2 degrees Celsius warmer than pre-industrial levels. Experts say that while the rise in sea levels is inevitable, steps can be taken to reduce them.
The international community, including South Korea, has set its goal of achieving carbon neutrality by 2050. While the rise in sea levels is inevitable at this point, it is important to work towards that goal of reducing carbon emissions, which can slow down global warming and reduce the rise in sea levels.
이시후 아리랑 뉴스.
Cold wave continues to grip much of South Korea. Mornings will be just as cold tomorrow with the capital region starting off at -8 degrees Celsius. The frigid weather will continue for the next couple of days. The good news is that this bitter cold wave will be the last of the season. As cold air continues to filter in, dry conditions are worsening. In fact, dry weather advisories have been expanded to further parts of inland regions. More than half of the country is currently under dry alerts. For the East Coast, where dry conditions have intensified, warnings have been issued. Morning lows are ranged from -11 to 2 degrees nationwide. Chuncheon will be ice cold at -11 degrees. More clouds are expected for the daytime with temperatures warming up a tad. Daejeon and Gwangju will get up to 3 degrees and Busan will make it to 6 degrees Celsius. The cold wave is forecast to ease off this Friday. Morning lows will return to the positive territory this weekend. That's all for now, and here are the weather conditions around the world.
And that's all from us. Thank you for watching.